wrapping up a conversation on Mike Gundy and not being very good at talking to the media. I don't know. Maybe he said exactly what he wanted to say. That's a possibility.
Yeah,
We have to take that.
I thought about that. I'm like, maybe that's just who he is.
Yeah.
T-Mac says, he goes, the problem with this whole thing is he went off script instead of saying the line everyone knows or expected him to say. He said, I worked as a bouncer for I observe a lot of people that it appears agree with him by their actions. I know personally and honestly, I've been there, and yes, I know it's wrong. Like my I guess so. My point isn't to say, well, I've done it too, or you've done it too, or I know you've done it, because it still doesn't arrive at the root of the problem.
Yeah.
The root of the problem is the lack of self-awareness in order to correct the problem so we can keep people from dying.
Yes.
We're just selfish by nature.
We'd rather take that chance.
He still thinks what people that do that think. It's only them.
We would rather take the chance that we're not safe to drive and we hurt somebody else than we would pay for an Uber, or that we would leave our car somewhere, or that we would be inconvenienced by trying to find another way home. Like
what's the first thing I told you I would do if I could afford it?
Get a driver.
Not because and I'll have a drink, but and I said, I just don't like driving.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would ride everywhere if I could.
Yeah.
I would get a ride. I just do not enjoy driving.
And that's one of the things that I don't understand, especially now. It's easier than ever to get a ride now with Uber and Lyft and all the rideshare things, easier than ever. And, he brought up the point about Ollie Gordon making good money now. It's like, it's not like he can't afford it.
That's the elephant in the room.
Right. It's the same thing would happen with Justin Timberlake a few weeks ago. I was like, why does Justin Timberlake drive anywhere?
Because I think there's just this innate sense of immortality.
Yeah, it's dumb.
I mean, let's not act like we don't know why. We're just afraid to talk about it.
No,
like,
I genuinely...
People are afraid to say, oh, man, you think you're invincible. Like, you think that you can pull... I mean, that's what everybody does it. It's what I've done. It's like...
Maybe that's where there's a disconnect for me, because...
It's like, oh, I can do this.
I've done what we're talking about, and I've learned from it,
As
right?
have I.
But maybe because of my situation, the immortality thing never crosses my mind. Ever. Like, and maybe it's because I've been sick since I was 7. Like, I don't know. That's never crossed my mind. They're like, oh, it's not going to happen to me, whatever. Like, my mind focuses on worst case scenarios all the time, right? So, like...
Yeah, we definitely are different there.
So, like that... So, it's possible that what you're saying is true, and I just can't identify with it because of my specific situation. But when I hear somebody like Justin Timberlake, or I hear somebody like Ollie Gordon, or whoever, anybody that has means of any kind, the first thing I think is either why don't you have a driver, or why didn't you pay for an Uber? Like, that's the thing that I fundamentally do not understand, is pay for an Uber or hire a driver. Like, if you're Justin Timberlake, hire a driver. Like, this is not hard, right? If you're Ollie Gordon, get an Uber. Like, this is not... There's really simple solutions, especially now. Like, I get that before it was harder. It's not anymore. There's really no excuses anymore. And not that they were good excuses before, but even the bad ones are kind of out the window. So maybe there is a immortality thing to it that I just don't personally understand. But I think it goes back to the thing we were talking about before, where some people, especially before we grow and learn and mature, have a really hard time understanding that the consequences to other people of our actions are often greater than the consequences to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then caring that the consequences to other people can be greater than the ones to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, it took me a little bit of time to think that if something happens to me, like, what about my family? I mean, full disclosure, that was way down the list until my dad got sick. And that was 11, 12, which was 13 years ago, which puts me in my high 30s. That's sad, right? But full disclosure, it just didn't dawn on me.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it's
and I remember, and it's been incremental change. It wasn't overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember hearing a sermon, and it basically was about being a good steward of young people, and in particular your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, the bottom line, and it was one of those lines that I think he used. I always go back to A Time to Kill when Matthew McConaughey, was it Matthew McConaughey who was the lawyer?
I think so.
One of those guys. And he's like, now imagine they were white. And at the end, it was, what will your kids put on your headstone, or what would be in your epitaph? And I just was like, oh, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, huh. So when I look at coaches and I see like what's going on college campuses and some of the vices and things, and I just think to myself, I just think you have I think you have a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, listen, so I'm saying two things at once. Yeah, there's the hey, there's the moral ground, right? But then there's also this other thing where if I'm coaching and I'm in 2024, 2025, 2026, and I want to stay ahead of the game, I want people that genuinely care about other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this chaotic deal where, prices are high and people are stressed and politics get in the way and we have all these complaints, they just complain. I think the great equalizer is, and the people that will come out on top will be those that genuinely care about other people, because we're so deprived and we're so starved of personal interaction. I think it's the difference maker. I think it's the set apart. I think it's the thing that can I've said this for the last 3 years with Nebraska. If you want to combat the transfer portal, make it a place that people
Mm-hmm.
are afraid to leave because it is so good on the way that you make them feel. Because I think that's what people want.
That right there is what you said, that like the way you can make people feel will trump everything else.
Yeah,
because all the things that people are chasing other places, whether it's money, whether it's fame, whether it's human connection, whatever it is, right? All of those things that we think will make us happy, all we're chasing is feeling a certain way.
So I say all that to say, when I'm listening to this last night, I couldn't believe that he missed the mark on, if you want to get out of this, because I'm like you, I caught the he makes a lot of money thing in the punish. Like,
I get it.
It resonated with me. He's saying I would have been, if I was him, I'd have, and you're just going to step all the way in it.
Mm-hmm.
But he missed the part where he had the opportunity to say, hey, listen, I know it's about this a lot. It's very transactional, but I want my players to know that I care about their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted him to say all these things. And I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, that maybe just isn't who he is. So he's going to have to play in that transactional world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to land the plane. It's the number one reason why I went into the little 7-8 minute deal yesterday about Nebraska having a chance to recalibrate and reset how they want to do business. And maybe it's not a drastic change. Maybe it's you just reiterate.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, when you're not on your game, the world can get you. It's a lot going on out there. Stay close to one another. Be concerned about one another. And, just the ability to have hard conversations with people you care about. Burr sent me something yesterday on TikTok, and I'll send it over to you. And there's, of course, some coarse language, but I can't repeat. But it says, it basically is a guy talking about needing three friends.
Mm-hmm.
Person that loves you enough to tell you the truth, even when it's going to hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's a ride or die, no matter what, and somebody that can listen and put their arm around you when you want to spill your guts. He says you get those three things, like,
you know, the hardest one to find. I think the hardest one to find.
Somebody to tell you the truth when it's going to hurt your feelings. Yeah, 100%.
Because everybody else is afraid about what that means for them.
Yeah, we don't. This just means you don't care enough.
That's why I tell people to go to counseling, because I was like, they don't care enough about you to lie.
Yeah, that's why I love Rayola's line about
no feelings involved.
No feelings, and sometimes it's just like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Because when the standard is the standard.
When I have these conversations with people in whether it's relationships or friendships or I'm coaching, there'll be some things that I say, and it's just like, do you even care? And I want to say in my head, I'm only saying it because I do.
Yeah.
If I don't, then I don't.
If I didn't care, I just cut bait and I'm out.
Man.
Right? That's how I am. People know that.
And you figure out in a hurry, like, who can handle the information, who can't, right? It can become counterproductive. That's when you got to move on.